posted right before this was just a little bit about Passion Week. And so today, right now, we want to dive back into 1 Corinthians. So 1 Corinthians is, once again, just to kind of refresh your memory, it's written by Paul. It's written to a church in Corinth, obviously the name 1 Corinthians, but he didn't only write one letter. We think that he at least wrote 3 letters. That is because in our last chapter we learned that in 1 Corinthians he alluded to a previous letter he had already written. So that means that our biblical book, 1 Corinthians, may have actually been the second book or the third book possibly that he had written to the church at Corinthians. But we know for sure that we have 2 canonical books, meaning they're in the Bible, which is 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians. Now he came to the church of Corinth that we can find in our Bible in Acts chapter 18. He had just preached an amazing sermon. I forget what, I think it's called Mars Hill, which is to the Greeks. He had preached an awesome sermon in Acts chapter 17 to them. From Acts 17 he switches gears and he goes to the church of Corinth. He goes in weakness and brokenness after being kind of upset about his response that he had in chapter 17. He says, look, I came and no type of eloquence. I didn't come speaking great. I just came simple, basic, so that the gospel would be elevated to you. And so then he goes and he begins to say all these different things in the book of 1 Corinthians to the church at Corinth. But what we've kind of gotten so far is that he begins the chapter by saying, hey, look, I'm writing to the saints at the church of Corinth. And then he starts listing their terrible sins. Like there's a guy sleeping with his stepmother. They're getting drunk off the communion wine. I mean, the church of Corinth really has some terrible things going on in it that we've discovered so far. But even still, he begins by saying, dear saints. And that lets me know that sometimes we as believers, we do things that are contrary to what we think, know, and believe to be right. That's why Paul writes in a later chapter, he says, look, the things that I want to do, I don't do them. I don't know why I don't do the things that I want to do, and I don't know why I do the things that I don't want to do. Oh, what a wretched man I am. I'm miserable, because he kind of talks about the struggle of following the Spirit versus following the flesh. So he already addresses that in 1 Corinthians. This is what we've been going over so far. Now we're going to switch gears as we dive into chapter 8. Now 1 Corinthians chapter 8, just to kind of sum it up, is about, as a Christian, you should not do anything that will cause another believer to stumble, even if by law or by decree or by scripture or by your spirit is okay. So let me give you an example, right? The Masters is going on right now, and they're golfing and stuff. Now, do I think that it's wrong to gamble on the golf course? Absolutely not. No, I'm biblically, I don't think that it's wrong. Spiritually, in my conscience, I don't think that it's wrong. But if someone was out there playing golf and they struggled gambling, maybe they had lost a lot gambling, or that's something that they were struggling with, and they saw me on the golf course betting out there, they may, in their conscience, say, well, if he can do that, then I can violate my own conscience. So out of love, I shouldn't do that, right? I should not gamble. Based off of, I know that if I take this next step, it's going to cause them to sin. That's what chapter 8 is about. It primarily in its teaching, it teaches us that as Christians, we should observe what we do so that other people, knowing that other people are watching us, we don't want them to shrink back or to lose their faith based off of something that we did. So be very careful about the way that we go about our own lives, paying attention to how people are perceiving our actions. And though something may be free, maybe something be not sinful, if it causes somebody else to stumble, then it's not loving if we go ahead and proceed with that. So there are tons and countless of examples of this that you could apply to your own life, but that's just a silly little illustration of how I've applied it to my life before. So anyways, that's what 1 Corinthians is about. There's also Romans 14 that's about the same thing. Maybe you said, I've heard that before. You did. In Romans 14, because they're essentially the exact same chapter, and they kind of go hand in hand. So anyways, I'll see y'all. Like I said, I'm going to post all these videos from 1 Corinthians chapter 9. So I won't be seeing y'all tomorrow. I'll be seeing y'all in just a couple of minutes as we post 1 Corinthians chapter 9. So until then, peace.